The drama begins with our heroine, Yoon, who has 3 brothers and is very feisty. One day, while she's on her way home after buying lunch, she encounters her brother's ex-girlfriend, who he had broken up with. The ex-girlfriend, thinking that Yoon is the reason her brother left her, attacks Yoon with her friends and gives her a serious beating, but in reality, Yoon had nothing to do with the breakup. Yoon returns home, furious, and starts yelling at her brothers, demanding to know which one of them dumped the girl. She warns them to confess before she punishes them. When none of them respond, she takes a picture of them looking disheveled and threatens to post it on social media if they don't admit it. One of her brothers finally confesses, and Yoon immediately beats him up, scolding him for breaking the girl's heart. Her brother brushes it off, saying that this isn't the first time he's dumped someone, and that since he's good-looking, girls always fall for him. He dismisses Yoon's anger, calling it childish. From that moment on, Yoon develops a deep hatred for handsome men. We are then introduced to the male lead, Kang, a very attractive young man. One day, while sketching in a restaurant, he notices a girl sitting with her boyfriend, sneaking glances at him. When her boyfriend steps away to the restroom, Kang boldly asks for her number. The girl, mesmerized by his looks, quickly writes it on a napkin. However, instead of keeping the number, Kang follows her boyfriend to the restroom and hands him the napkin. When the boyfriend asks what it is, Kang coolly replies, "It's your girlfriend's number, the one you think is in love with you." He warns him that she flirts too easily and isn't the type to be loyal. Then he leaves. Coincidentally, this boyfriend turns out to be Yoon's brother, who attended the same school where Yoon now works as a trainer. Yoon is furious with him, insisting that he stop dating girls altogether since she's always the one who ends up getting beaten up because of his relationships. She refuses to let him enjoy his life while she suffers the consequences. Later, Yoon receives a call from her boyfriend, Young, inviting her to dinner. She excitedly assumes he's going to propose. Overjoyed, she rushes to her best friend, asking to borrow a dress to look her best for the proposal. At first, her friend refuses, but eventually, she gives in. Yoon arrives at the restaurant, heart pounding with excitement. As Young reaches into his pocket, she eagerly anticipates the moment he'll pull out a ring and ask her to marry him. But to her shock, he takes out a mirror instead and tells her he invited her here to break up. He explains that he needs someone who matches his financial status and social class, someone beautiful and elegant, unlike her. Heartbroken, Yoon runs to her best friend, sobbing, but her friend tells her to stop crying. In response, Yoon turns to food for comfort, since eating is the most important thing to her. Meanwhile, we learn more about Kang. He is incredibly wealthy and athletic, but he wasn't always this way. In school, he was overweight and constantly bullied because of his bad odor. No one liked him, and he suffered a lot. Now, whenever he remembers those painful days, his stomach churns, and he barely manages to keep himself together. He resolves to confront his past and show his old bullies how successful he has become. Kang decides to attend a party where all his former classmates will be gathered. When he arrives, everyone is stunned by his transformation. The girls at the party swarm around him, all except Yoon, who remains uninterested because of her hatred for handsome men. Every time someone tries to talk to him, Yoon interrupts by ordering food, which irritates Kang. Then Kang realizes something shocking. Yoon was the girl from his past, the one who had witnessed his worst days in school when he couldn't control himself. Overwhelmed by memories, he quickly leaves the party. Back at home, Kang can't stop thinking about Yoon and the things she did back then. He goes to a doctor and sketches her face, determined to keep this image in front of him so that when he sees her again, he can control himself. Meanwhile, Yoon decides she needs to reinvent herself, become stylish and cute, so she can win back her ex-boyfriend. She makes a deal with her friend. If her friend helps her impress her ex, Yoon will help her get together with her own crush. That night, they go to a restaurant, only to discover that her ex's friend is none other than Kang. It turns out he orchestrated the meeting so he could see Yoon again. He confidently tells her to leave their friends alone for a while and spend time with him instead. As he watches her, Kang assumes she must be falling for his looks and charm. He debates whether he should make her chase after him or just make a move. Finally, he straightforwardly asks her to date him, but to his shock, Yoon refuses, simply because he's handsome. Kang is surprised by Yoon's reaction and acceptance, which unexpectedly throws him into the same emotional turmoil he's been trying to avoid. Frustrated, he rushes to his doctor, who advises him that he needs to appear strong and superior in front of her. The doctor suggests that he buy an expensive car to impress her. The next day, Kang follows the advice and purchases a luxury car. Meanwhile, his friend sees Yoon standing with a handsome man and immediately informs Kang. Kang becomes extremely upset, unaware that the man is actually her brother. His sadness deepens. The following day, Kang and his friend go to a restaurant, only for him to once again spot Yoon with another handsome guy. He assumes they are dating, not realizing that this too is her brother. Frustrated, he laments the wasted money on his expensive car. Shifting to Kang's family, being extremely wealthy, they have the power to appoint him as the new director of a school. Coincidentally, it turns out to be the same school where Yoon works. When Yoon sees him, she glares at him and jokingly threatens, "I'm going to kill you, rich boy." This immediately triggers Kang's old condition, but he struggles to maintain his composure in front of everyone. After calming down, he takes a tour of the school to familiarize himself with it and to prepare himself for when he inevitably encounters Yoon. He orders his secretary to secretly take pictures of her under the guise of capturing his own photo. When he later zooms in on the pictures, he realizes that Yoon had caught him in the act, staring at him with a terrified expression. Later, Yoon meets up with her friend, who informs her that Kang isn't just the director, he is actually the son of the school's owner. She warns Yoon to be respectful if she wants to keep her job. During a staff meeting, Kang watches as Yoon eats like she's never seen food before, shocking all the employees. The meal consists only of fruits and vegetables, disappointing everyone who was expecting meat and grilled dishes. A doctor who works at the school who happens to like Yoon tries to get closer to her by offering her food. Later, Kang asks Yoon how she would handle a case where a student was bullied and called ugly or fat. Yoon bluntly responds, saying the student wasn't lying. It was just the harsh truth. Kang gets upset, but Yoon's friend diffuses the tension by accidentally spilling a drink on him. She then pulls Yoon aside and warns her that if she doesn't apologize, she might get fired. Reluctantly, Yoon approaches Kang, still frustrated. She sarcastically apologizes, muttering that he's as annoying as ever. Kang, in an attempt to de-escalate, quickly accepts her apology, saying, all right, I accept. I'm just a small guy, really." Yoon, satisfied, walks away happily, while Kang is left completely shaken. Afterward, the employees start searching for Kang, who has mysteriously disappeared. Yoon's friend scolds her. "Where did you send him, you troublemaker?" Yoon insists she has no idea. Meanwhile, Kang visits the doctor again, who notes that his rapid heartbeat indicates he's in love. Kang refuses to believe it and consults another doctor who simply tells him he's a little stressed. Taking this as reassurance, Kang skips work for a few days to clear his mind. Meanwhile, Yoon spends time alone, only to be surprised when the school doctor brings her an apple, something he regularly does now. Later, she comes across an old childhood photo of herself and Kang. She jokingly wonders why he had to grow up to be so handsome and wishes he had stayed unattractive. Yoon later seeks out Kang to get his approval for her racing team's budget. However, Kang misinterprets this, assuming she's just looking for an excuse to see him because she secretly likes him. He tells her he's busy, but if it's really urgent, she can come to his house. To his surprise, she agrees without hesitation and shows up at his house late at night. Nervously waiting for her, he becomes even more flustered when she arrives with a bottle of lemonade. Trying to act normal, he pretends to be indifferent and listens as she explains the budget request. Yoon, unfamiliar with the size of his mansion, gets lost while looking for the bathroom. When she returns, she accidentally spills her drink on herself, forcing her to remove her shirt. She then sits beside Kang to continue discussing the budget, but her presence makes him so nervous that he panics and runs off. Yoon follows him, and in a moment of unexpected tension, they collide, standing too close to each other. Everywhere Kang turns, Yoon is there, making him believe he's cursed with the Yoon syndrome. Eventually, he returns her shirt after washing and ironing it himself and also sends over the signed approval for her budget. He's clearly smitten but refuses to admit it. A few days later, Yoon accidentally sees Kang on a date with an elegant, beautiful woman. As Kang watches his date eat in a cute and refined manner, he can't help but remember how Yoon eats like a hungry beast. Despite being with someone else, he finds himself unable to stop thinking about Yoon. Even when he returns home, she's still on his mind. When Kang touches her, he realizes she is real and is taken aback. She then surprises him with a gift. They walk together for a while, and Yoon recalls a gesture she used to do for him when they were kids. After that, she leaves him standing there, lost in thought. The next day, Kang visits his doctor, who advises him to face his fears and overcome them. Determined, Kang decides to buy flowers for Yoon and goes to give them to her. However, the moment she looks at him, he panics and immediately throws the flowers out of the nearest window, convinced that he still can't control himself. Later, Kang meets with his doctor, and Yoon happens to see him hugging someone. She mistakenly assumes that Kang prefers men over women. The following day, Kang runs into Yoon and asks her about the racing team. She tells him that they are training well every day and that the budget he approved has been very helpful. She also gives him some advice, telling him that he must always chase his dreams, keep his eyes on the finish line, and push himself harder to reach his goal. After saying this, she walks away. Kang watches her until she reaches the finish line of the track. He then calls her and says, "I can see the finish line of my dream right in front of me." He is, of course, referring to her. He later sends her a message, asking her to meet him at a specific place. When Yoon arrives, she is surprised to find that Kang has created an official space for the team's training. Overjoyed, she thanks him, but then he tells her that he wants her to always be by his side and never leave him. However, Yoon remembers the girl she saw with Kang at the restaurant and tells him that she likes someone else. Feeling rejected, Kang leaves and vents all his frustration onto his best friend. Later, Yoon starts thinking about how odd it is that Kang confessed to her after she had clearly seen him with another woman. She feels like something doesn't add up. So she goes to him and tells him that she's willing to be his friend. But when Kang tries to touch her hand, she grabs his cheek and warns him, "No, I said just friends. Anything beyond that, and you'll get a slap across the face." Kang quickly apologizes and offers to walk her home. When they arrive at her house, Kang sees her brothers and is immediately attacked by them. He shouts in confusion, "What is going on? How can she be in a relationship with two guys and live with them? And you all are okay with this?" But then he realizes they are actually her brothers, and his mood instantly shifts to joy, relieved that she isn't seeing anyone. As he leaves, he is so ecstatic that he literally starts dancing from happiness. The next day, Kang waits for Yoon outside. When she sees him, she runs to him and hugs him tightly, seeing him as just like one of her brothers. Kang, however, is taken aback. He had brought a cake for her and tries to hug her back, but Yoon scolds him, saying, "No, I can hug you, but you can't hug me." The following day at school, Kang watches Yoon from a distance as she trains on the field. He feels happy just seeing her. His assistant notices his unusually cheerful mood and is baffled by how much he's changed recently. Later, Yoon visits the doctor, where she notices he has a bag of chips. Since she loves food, she tries to take it from him. Eventually, she succeeds, but in the process, she ends up falling on her legs and is unable to move them. The doctor is forced to treat her injury. At that moment, Kang arrives and sees the doctor touching Yoon's leg. Furious, he yells at him to back off and warns him not to touch her again. Then, he grabs Yoon and pulls her away. He scolds her, telling her not to get close to anyone else or he'll punish her. He then storms off to his office, still fuming. Once inside, he grabs his phone and starts looking at photos of the two of them. He zooms in on her face and mutters to himself, "She's so cute and really beautiful." Meanwhile, Yoon is confused by Kang's jealous reaction. She decides to go to Kang's friend to get some answers. She corners him, forces him into conversation, and even roughs him up until he finally confesses. Kang's friend tells her, "Kang wants you to love him. He wants to do to you what you did to him back then. He wants revenge." Yoon is completely shocked and immediately confronts Kang, telling him that she has learned the truth. She scolds him, calling him a liar and a pathetic person, and demands that he stay away from her, saying she never wants to see him again. Kang, furious, storms over to his friend. His friend defends himself, saying, "I only told her so she'd leave you alone. She's just after your money. And honestly, you can't handle another beating. She already broke my arm. I can't take more hits because of you." The next day, Yoon goes to school, having decided she wants a break from life. Her best friend tries to pull her out of her slump, but Yoon insists, "No, Leave me alone. I don't belong in this world anymore. I need to eliminate every handsome man from my life. Her friend tries to stop her, but Yoon is determined. Kang then calls for Yoon and orders her to come to his office immediately. Even though she despises him, she has no choice but to go. After all, he's the director. He tells her that she will now be responsible for changing the oil in his car and that she will be his personal driver from now on. If she refuses, she'll be fired. Frustrated but left with no choice, Yoon agrees, feeling completely humiliated. She later goes to the doctor and asks him for something to calm her nerves. As usual, she vents about Kang, and the doctor, just as annoyed, tells her that he's ready to punch Kang himself. He just needs her signal. Later, Yoon angrily deletes all the photos of her and Kang together. On the other hand, Kang also tries to delete their photos but finds himself unable to do it. He can't bring himself to erase all the good memories they shared. That night, Yoon visits her best friend, who tells her that Kang has invited all the school staff to an expensive and fancy restaurant. She encourages Yoon to go, saying, "At least enjoy the food. You can kill him afterward if you want, but first, let's eat." Yoon decides to go. At the restaurant, Kang tells her not to drink lemonade since she'll be the one driving him home now that she's his driver. But Yoon ignores him and drinks a lot of lemonade anyway, frustrated with the whole situation. Later, she steps outside, and Kang follows her. She snatches his car keys from him and refuses to give them back. But then, she suddenly faints. The doctor appears just in time and catches her before she falls. He starts carrying her to his car, but Kang blocks him, and the two men start fighting over who will take her home. Yoon wakes up momentarily, sees them fighting, and just walks away. By the time they stop and turn around, she's gone. They rush to her house to check on her, but aren't sure if she made it home safely. Then, suddenly, a taxi pulls up, and they quickly hide. Yoon gets out of the taxi and enters her house. The next day, Yoon's best friend informs her that she actually stole Kang's car while she was drunk on lemonade the night before. Yoon, confused, asks, "What do you expect me to do? You know I lose my memory when I drink too much lemonade." That same morning, the school director arrives at work in a taxi, carrying a large bottle of lemonade. He hands it to Yoon, and she immediately becomes suspicious. "Wait, do you think he poisoned this? Does he want to kill me as revenge for stealing his car?" she whispers to her friend. "I swear I didn't mean to steal it. I don't even remember." Meanwhile, Kang finds out that his secretary has been overloading Yoon with work. He storms over to him, yelling, "No one gives Yoon orders except me." His friend sighs, saying, "Wow, what a misunderstanding. You try to help her and she thinks you're poisoning her. Us good guys really can't catch a break." On the other hand, the school doctor, having overheard that Yoon hates handsome men but loves food, starts devising a plan. He decides to make himself look less attractive and constantly brings her food to get closer to her. One day, the doctor asks Yoon to go on a dinner date with him. She casually agrees, and he gives her an expensive dress for the occasion. When she tries it on, she complains, "This is the first time I've worn such a fancy dress. It looks awful on me, right?" The doctor, completely smitten, replies, "This is the first time I've ever seen such a beautiful dress, or maybe it's just because you're wearing it." Meanwhile, Kang finds out that Yoon is going on a date with the doctor. Shocked, he exclaims, "What? How is this happening?" At the dinner, in front of everyone, the doctor boldly declares, "I've been in love with Yoon from the very first moment I saw her. She belongs to me." After the dinner, Yoon returns the dress and refuses to keep it because it's too expensive. She thanks the doctor for his kind words in front of everyone, but insists that she doesn't believe him. The doctor tells her, "I wasn't just saying it to impress people. I really mean it." But Yoon doesn't believe him and simply walks away. Meanwhile, Kang is sitting alone, talking to a stuffed toy, venting about how ridiculous Yoon is and how much she frustrates him. The next day, he sees Yoon with the doctor again and immediately calls her to his office. He orders her to come immediately and then scolds her, saying, "Your work is slipping. I want a full report on the school's racing team right now." Yoon gets angry but tries to calm herself down and writes the report. She heads to Kang's office, but he isn't there. When she calls him, he tells her to bring the report to his house instead. Although she doesn't want to, she has no choice but to go. When she arrives, she notices how attached Kang is to his Mr. Potato plushie. She teases him about it, saying he seems to really love it. Flustered, Kang quickly denies it, saying, No, I don't even like it. I'm going to throw it away soon." But as soon as Yoon steps into the kitchen, Kang turns to the plushie and whispers, "I lied to her. I could never throw you away." Meanwhile, Yoon starts eating whatever she finds in the kitchen, which makes Kang decide to cook her something healthy instead. When she tastes his food, she's surprised and tells him it's really delicious. She even feeds him a bite with her own hands. The next day, Kang asks her to go to his house again. He tells her he has an important meeting and that she has to drive him there. Yoon keeps refusing, but in reality, she just wants to know who he's meeting. She gets irritated, assuming he's going on a date with another woman. Her frustration spills over, and she starts picking fights with random people on the street, even yelling at a passerby who has nothing to do with the situation. She's about to get into a physical fight when Kang suddenly shows up at the right moment, playing the role of the cool, untouchable hero. But Yoon is still annoyed that he won't tell her who the meeting was with, so she goes home, sulking. Her brother notices her bad mood and immediately figures out Kang is the reason. He smirks and says, "Just give me the signal and I'll go get him for you. I'll tie him up and beat him properly this time." Yoon sighs and says that if she wanted to do that, she could handle it herself. She doesn't need anyone's help. That night, she falls asleep and has a painful memory from her past. She remembers the tragic event that led to her parents' death and how she felt responsible for it. The next morning, she wakes up in distress and starts running, trying to escape the overwhelming guilt. Kang, who had been secretly watching her, sees her breakdown. As she cries, Kang suddenly appears in front of her and confesses his love. But it's the worst possible timing. She isn't in the right state of mind. What she needed in that moment wasn't love, but comfort and understanding. Without thinking, Yoon slaps him. Kang is shocked, unable to comprehend why she did that. He leaves, heartbroken, and goes straight to his doctor. Finding him asleep, Kang wakes him up and tells him everything. The doctor advises him not to give up and encourages him to express his feelings to Yoon again. The next day at school, Yoon is distant and lost in thought. The doctor notices and places his hand on her head to check on her. Just then, Kang walks in, sees them, and immediately removes the doctor's hand from Yoon's head. He looks at him coldly and says, "You don't pet a dog while it's eating, my friend." From then on, every time Kang tries to talk to Yoon, she avoids him. She even starts sending him school reports via email just to avoid seeing him in person. One evening, Yoon goes to her room to relax, only to find Kang standing there. Startled, she asks, "How did you even get in here?" Kang smirks and replies, "I'll appear wherever you go until you tell me what's wrong." As he looks around her room, he picks up a childhood photo of her and smiles, saying she was really cute as a kid. He tries to get closer to her, but she pushes him away. Defeated, he leaves. Yoon later meets up with her best friend and tells her everything. Her friend, already expecting her reaction, ignores Kang completely and instead asks, "So, what do you think about the doctor?" Meanwhile, Kang is at home, crying like a child, not understanding why Yoon keeps pushing him away. Later that night, Yoon suddenly shows up at Kang's house. She tells him he can't ignore her like this. They need to talk. She begs him to stay away from her, pleading with him not to get close to her anymore. Heartbroken, she drowns her feelings in lemonade, staying up late. In her intoxicated state, she video calls Kang and slurs, "So because I told you to stay away, you actually listened. You really don't love me, do you? You're supposed to ignore what I say. You shouldn't listen to me, idiot." That same night, she shows up at his house again and makes him promise that he will never leave her, no matter what, even if she tells him to. Of course, she was completely out of it because of the lemonade. The next morning, when she wakes up, she realizes what she did and is completely shocked. But Kang? He took her words seriously. Now that she had given him a reason to stay, there's no way he's ever letting her go. Kang forces Yoon to be his driver again, which annoys her. Frustrated, she tells him that she'll be going on a school trip with the students the next day, and that the school doctor will be coming along as well. However, the next morning, Yoon is shocked to find that Kang is already packed and ready to go, even before the students. Not only that, but he also assigns the doctor a task to keep him occupied, so he won't be able to join the trip. Throughout the trip, Kang keeps a close eye on Yoon, admiring her beauty. When she decides to go into the sea, he tries to convince her not to, warning her about bacteria and pollution. But Yoon, being as stubborn as ever, refuses to listen and goes in anyway. Meanwhile, the doctor insists on coming along and eventually catches up with them. By the end of the day, they all meet again. Yoon begs Kang to leave her alone and stop making her think about him all the time, but he doesn't care. He firmly declares that he won't let her go no matter what. Desperate, Yoon calls her best friend and asks her to come on the trip to rescue her from both Kang and the doctor, who are both trying to get close to her. Her friend arrives and they all go out for dinner. During the meal, Kang keeps nudging Yoon's leg under the table, annoying her. She makes an excuse to go to the restroom, but Kang follows her and catches up to her in the garden. He confidently tells her, "I know you love me," before walking away. When Yoon returns, her best friend immediately asks, "What happened? Did he feed you raisins?" She teases Yoon, saying, "If you didn't slap him, that means you love him too." Later, Kang sends Yoon a message asking her to meet him for something important. Yoon, being cautious, dresses in thick layers, fully prepared to avoid any surprise attacks like last time. Every time Kang tries to get close, she steps back, making sure he doesn't get the chance to repeat his last stunt. Meanwhile, the doctor decides to make a move and asks his family to help him become the new school director, replacing Kang. The next day, the doctor visits Yoon at her house and tells her that he has officially become the new school director. He brings her a cake, and the moment Yoon sees it, she lights up with excitement and devours it as if she has never seen cake before. She isn't shocked about the doctor's promotion, she's just thrilled about the food. When her best friend arrives and sees Yoon eating the entire cake by herself, she scolds her. "Are you seriously eating all this without me, you greedy thing?" Her friend then tells her that if she keeps ignoring Kang and acting indifferent, he'll eventually get tired and leave her alone. But deep down, Yoon doesn't actually want Kang to leave, so she rushes to see him, leaves without saying much, and walks away, hoping that this way he won't actually distance himself. Later, when she's alone, she reflects on her actions and asks herself, "What am I even doing? What did I gain from this?" Meanwhile, Kang visits his grandmother and begs her to let him keep his position as school director, but the doctor is determined to take over, and both men are clearly doing all of this just to be closer to Yoon. The next day, it is officially announced that the doctor has taken over as the new director, leaving Kang disappointed. Yoon is upset too, realizing she won't get to see Kang at school every day anymore. The doctor takes the opportunity to confess his love to her, but she shocks him by saying she actually likes Kang. Then, she walks away. When Yoon gets home, she finds a drawing of Mr. Potato from Kang, along with an invitation to go out together. This time, she agrees. They go to an amusement park, have fun playing games, and later watch a sad movie at the cinema. Kang gets emotional and starts crying, while Yoon remains unaffected. He sniffles and asks, "How are you not crying? Do you even have a heart?" Yoon replies, "I would never cry over a book or a movie, no matter how sad it is." She then asks him, "Do you really think your love for me will last, even though you know I'm emotionally distant and cold?" Kang, still teary-eyed, reassures her, "I'll never leave you over something like that." Later, Yoon recalls a painful childhood memory when she asked her parents to take her to Kang's house so she could apologize to him. She had bullied him in the past, calling him fat and ugly. That night, while they were on their way to see him, a tragic accident occurred, and both of her parents passed away. Back in the present, the doctor still refuses to give up on Yoon. He continuously brings her chocolates and sweets, knowing how much she loves food, even after she already rejected him. One night, Yoon meets Kang and admits, "I know I treat you badly." Kang smiles and says, "Even if you treated me like this for a lifetime, the moment I hear you call me my love, I'll forget everything instantly." The next day, Yoon goes to Kang's house with a serious expression. She asks about his luxurious home, his clothes, and his wealth, acting like she suddenly cares about his background. Kang, confused, listens as Yoon explains, "You're rich, your family is powerful, and I have nothing. I'm an orphan, I have no wealth, no connections, so why are you with me?" She then asks him to break up with her before things go any further. Kang is completely stunned. He holds on to her, asking, "What's wrong with you? You weren't like this before." He pulls her into a tight hug, refusing to let go. At that moment, Kang's mother appears and is overjoyed to finally witness her son hugging a woman. She happily declares, "That's it. From now on, Yoon is my son's girlfriend." Yoon, utterly embarrassed, greets her awkwardly before quickly running away. The next day, Yoon starts distancing herself from Kang, refusing to joke around or give him any space to talk to her. But as time passes, Kang starts getting fed up with her cold behavior. Kang spends his time talking to his Mr. Potato plushie, complaining about Yoon to it non-stop. Meanwhile, the doctor keeps bringing Yoon food every time he sees her, knowing it's her weakness. Kang starts avoiding Yoon because of how she's been treating him, but his love for her is still deeply buried inside him. Whenever he misses her, he finds himself going to her house, standing outside and saying, "I miss you." Then he turns around and walks away. One night, Yoon stands in front of his car, blocking his way so he can't leave. Seeing her like this, Kang steps out, hands her the keys, and walks away instead, leaving her with the car. Yoon apologizes, saying, "Fine, I'll let you go. You never loved me anyway. You're heartless." She's truly upset, torn between her emotions. Deep down, she knows Kang isn't responsible for her parents' deaths, but she can't bring herself to forgive him. Because of that, she keeps pushing him away, blaming him for everything. But at the same time, she can't bring herself to completely let him go either. The next day, Yoon confronts Kang and bluntly tells him she doesn't love him before walking away. Kang, completely shocked, runs after her, yelling, "You're lying! You do love me, and no matter how hard you try, I won't let you go." He grabs her and says, "Listen, no matter how stubborn you are, no matter where you go, no matter how much you fight it, you will never love anyone else but me." Yoon, trying to stay composed, tells him, "Control yourself. Stop chasing dreams that will never come true." As time passes, Kang's condition worsens. Not being the school director anymore means he doesn't get to see Yoon every day, and the distance is slowly breaking him. One day, he finds Yoon sitting outside his house without knocking. She keeps doing this over and over again, sitting outside without saying a word. One night, when she does it again, Kang finally steps outside and tells her, "You're selfish. You're cruel." At that moment, Yoon finally opens up. She tells him everything about her past, her guilt, and how she blames herself for her parents' death. Then, she walks away. Tears streaming down her face, she continues walking, only to run into the doctor. He tries to comfort her, but just then, Kang appears and asks, "Why are you crying? You're the one who left me, not the other way around." The doctor steps in and tells Kang to back off, warning him not to touch her. Yoon, still overwhelmed, goes to her older brother, who comforts her and helps her fall asleep. He's deeply worried because he's never seen her this broken before. Meanwhile, Kang is furious and vents his frustration by punching his pillows every time someone mentions Yoon's name. The next day, Yoon's best friend notices that she's upset and takes her out. She convinces her to dress up in a short outfit, and they go out for a wild girls' night. Her friend then starts taking pictures of Yoon and sends them to Kang, writing, "We've decided to live recklessly now. Hope you're enjoying watching." That night, Kang, filled with rage and jealousy, recklessly drives and ends up getting into an accident. Later, Yoon receives a call from Kang's phone. A stranger on the other end tells her the owner of this phone was in a serious accident. Terrified, she rushes home only to find Kang perfectly fine. Shocked, she demands, "What happened to your phone?" Kang casually replies, "I lost it during the accident." Yoon, overwhelmed with emotions, asks, "Why did you come to my house?" After a brief silence, she finally admits, "I love you. I was lying before. I do love you." Kang, surprised but unable to keep up the act anymore, responds, "I love you too, but I can't lie to you anymore." He then confesses the truth. He was involved in the accident that caused her parents' death. He tells her that she should stay away from him, that she deserves better, and that she should forget about him completely. The next day, Yoon shows up at Kang's house again, but this time he refuses to see her. He tells her, "You don't deserve this pain." However, Yoon manages to get inside thanks to his doctor, who secretly lets her in. They sit down and finally have an honest conversation. Kang explains that he never meant to lie to her. He was just too afraid to tell her the truth. He begs her to leave and forget him. Yoon, heartbroken, follows his request and walks away. But even after being rejected multiple times, Kang remains the only one trying to find a reason to be happy, despite knowing he may have just lost her forever. Kang becomes increasingly frustrated, especially with his doctor. At one point, he demands the doctor cut a loose thread on his shirt. The doctor, trembling with fear, accidentally rips the entire shirt instead. Meanwhile, late at night, Yoon sneaks out of her house without her brothers noticing. She heads straight to Kang's place. When she arrives, he tells her to go back home since it's too late. But Yoon refuses. She tells him, "I don't want to go home. I want to stay here with you tonight. I want to be close to you just like all couples do." Kang, caught off guard, responds, "Yeah, but I don't really know what couples do when they spend time together. Like, do they just sit and talk? What exactly do they do?" Yoon glares at him and says, "I know exactly what they do, you clueless fool. But anyway, I just want you to copy whatever I do and follow my lead." Meanwhile, Yoon's older brother notices that she's missing from the house. He immediately calls her best friend and finds out that she went to Kang's place. Furious, he rushes over. Back at Kang's house, Yoon confidently tells him that the first thing they need to do is dance. She starts dancing in the most ridiculous way possible, showing off her expertise, or lack thereof. Just then, her brother and best friend burst in. Her brother drags her out while she yells, "How dare you! I was just trying to have a romantic moment with my boyfriend. What's your problem?" Her brother angrily declares, "You are never seeing Kang again." But Yoon, smirking, responds, "Oh, really? We'll see about that." She grabs the nearest object and chases him down, ready to make him regret his decision. Her brother protests, "Wait, you were just looking for an excuse to hit me, weren't you?" Still fuming, he adds, "And besides, Kang is still too young. How do you expect him to take responsibility for a whole household?" Yoon, still determined, tells him, "That's none of your business. We love each other, and that's all that matters." The next day, Yoon's best friend takes one look at her outfit and gasps, "Good thing I caught you before Kang saw you. What is this mess? Are you trying to embarrass yourself?" She hands Yoon a new outfit, saying, "Wear this instead. Trust me, you'll thank me later." When Yoon meets Kang at a restaurant, he can't take his eyes off her. Her brother notices this and warns Kang, "That's enough staring. Show some respect before I punch you into next week." Meanwhile, the doctor is still trying to win Yoon over, continuously bringing her chocolates and food. This time, he directly invites her to dinner. Yoon, seeing an opportunity, immediately agrees. During dinner, she tells him, "I need to ask you for something. Please stop liking me." The doctor finally realizes that Yoon is hopelessly in love with Kang. Accepting defeat, he apologizes and says, "I did my best, but I guess I'll stop bringing you chocolates now." Yoon smiles and tells him, "You're actually a really nice guy." She gives him a friendly hug. Just then, Kang walks in and sees them. The doctor, sensing danger, quickly lets go of Yoon and whispers, "I have a feeling I might not survive the night." Then he takes off running. Kang immediately chases after him, shouting, "I'm going to kill you!" Afterward, Kang goes back to Yoon, determined to be with her no matter what. Yoon later tells her best friend, "Everything went exactly as planned. We're finally together." Her best friend, shocked by how cunning she is, exclaims, "You're such a schemer." Yoon quickly covers her mouth, whispering, "Shh, my brothers might hear." As time passes, Yoon and Kang grow even closer, bonding over Mr. Potato. Kang even teaches Yoon how to take care of it properly. One day, Kang goes to Yoon's brothers with a serious request. He wants to marry Yoon. Surprisingly, her brothers agree without hesitation. Kang then surprises Yoon with a beautiful white dress, exactly like the one she dreamed of when she was a child. Finally, Kang and Yoon get married. They live happily ever after, with a house full of children, both boys and girls. And here is the end of the drama. Subscribe for more videos like this one, tap the bell icon to get the updates first.